Hello, welcome back. Mike from Canavan Wealth. I want to do a video about probably one of the most important questions and yet one of the hardest questions to answer when we do financial planning with clients, which is how much money are you going to need in retirement, right? It is a surprisingly difficult question, one that clients are typically unprepared for, and I've got a lot of thoughts about it. Retirement, I often tell people, is not about how much money you have, but it's about how much money you're going to spend. I've seen clients who have very realistic expectations about what their retirement's going to be, have lived within their means their whole life. I tell them kind of what the amount of money that is going to be coming in, and they say, yeah, that's going to be what we need. And they have very happy, healthy retirements on a surprisingly small amount of money. And then I have other clients that have earned a lot through their entire lives. They know that they're spenders and they worry about retirement, even though they have a substantial nest egg saved, because they just don't understand, how that's going to work with their lifestyle and their budget and things along those lines. So um, we're going to kind of dive into the process that I typically lead clients through to get through it. And with a lot of planners, some planners take the approach of trying to make this decision for clients, in that they bring in your all your bills and everything, and we're going to add it up. That is typically not the way I go. I kind of give clients this homework, and then uh, they largely provide me those numbers, and then we tweak those as retirement goes on to understand. I think it's somewhat of a recipe for disaster if your financial advisor tells you how much money you're supposed to live on in retirement versus the other way around. That number is probably going to be a lot more accurate if you provide it, if you kind of follow these little rules that I have. So I break your effective retirement budget into kind of three categories. And I often tell people this, kind of go through this logic to get to where you think you're going to be happy in those retirement years, and understand that these are all going to change very often down. I would say it is far more common for clients to come to me and tell me that they don't need as much money as they initially requested, uh, and then the other way around. So the first one is to come up with your basic needs, right? These would be all your recurring bills. This is, if you're still paying something on the house or you have car loans, any type of cable TV, internet at the house. I tell people to include gas and food in this. I typically tell people to kind of go back for a quarter at the most. And then beyond that, look for some odd annual expenses, taxes on the house, things like that. Make sure that that all gets included quarterly. There's various things that may only be getting billed quarterly, things like that. When I do this for myself, which I do fairly frequently, just to kind of understand, where it is we're spending our money. I go through the credit card bill and the checking account statement. Virtually everything in my house gets spent through those two things. So, we have a credit card that I put things on for points. We pay it off at the end of every month, and then the checking account, we have one, for the family that we spend everything through. So, if I go back 2, 3, 4 months and kind of come up with a monthly budget, quarterly things are just spread out over 3 months. Obviously, if there's annual expenses, you sometimes have to pick through those, like life insurance premiums or anything like that. They write a big check once a year. Add those up, divide them by 12, give yourself kind of a monthly cost. Then I tell people and that's kind of bare minimum. I think it's important to understand yourself what bare minimum means for you. For a lot of people, they would not include eating out with that. But if you have never been someone who kind of cooked, and eating out that is how you exist, then I think that might be something you'd have to include in this. It is unlikely that you are going to change your lifestyle that much and that you're going to start cooking at home or something along those lines. The next one would be, kind of the retirement lifestyle that you're looking for. How many weeks, if you are somebody that generally cooks, how many nights a week are you planning on eating out? Do you want to be able to take weekend trips that you don't really have to kind of budget for? Do you camp? Operate a boat or something along those lines? Fish. These are the expenses that you're going to want to be able to pay for out of the checking account, but aren't necessarily kind of like the requirements of your daily existence, which is that kind of basic first needs. This we're going to add on to your basic needs to get to kind of a monthly expense that we're going to try and ensure post-tax, very important, is hitting your account each month. And we're going to see some numbers for this. And then the last thing is the amount of money that you would like to be able to take out of the account to be able to do the trips and things that you've kind of always wanted in retirement. Often that's travel for people, but not always. Some people are car enthusiasts or things like that. And this is kind of different from lifestyle in that these are kind of major expenses that if you did not do it the way I'm going to describe it, you would have to kind of save up month to month, right? So let's say you want to take a $10,000 trip. In retirement, there's really two options. There's either save the money that's coming in month to month up until you have the amount and then go on the trip, or book the trip, take the money out of your retirement account and pay for it. I tend to encourage people to do the latter of those, as long as they come up with kind of an annual budget that's what they plan on as kind of part of the financial plan in order to spend. So we'll see kind of numbers of that. So you might go through your kind of bills and say, all right, we're still paying a little bit on the house. We've got a car loan. There's all these things. Our monthly needs come up to, let's say, $3,500 a month. And we decide, we'll take a couple of weekend trips, but not much. And we're probably going to eat out twice a week at least. And there's kind of these other hobbies that we like to do. And that's going to we're going to add that to the basic needs. So we get to about $5,500 a month total. Common number I see with retirees around $5,000 a month. That's going to be what we're going to aim to hit the bank account with. And then the annual, kind of cost that we expect to spend is we want to be able to spend $20,000 a year on whatever we want, right? That we don't have to feel bad about that we're taking money from our retirement savings to spend. I find that when we do it this way with clients, they feel much more comfortable with spending their money. And it's this weird thing when you work with a financial advisor where you feel like you're asking them for money. We don't care. Virtually all of the ones we don't have any judgment about our clients. It's their money. When they call and they're like, there's often a big explanation, and we're like, it's your money. You have plenty of it. Please spend it and enjoy it. So, but I found if you broke this up, let's say it's 24,000, so 2,000, and you gave yourself $7,500 a month, and now you're going to start saving it in order to go on that cruise or do whatever it is, that it creates anxiety in clients, and it pushes them back into a saving mentality of now we have to save up, and they don't even view their retirement accounts because they kind of like, well, we're getting as much from that a month as we had kind of planned. So we have to save. And then they start saving beyond what they actually need for something. They build up like a big cash reserve that they maybe already had. Whereas if it's just, look, we're going to plan that you're going to spend $20,000 a year on whatever it is, and when you're going to spend $14,000 on a 2-week cruise to wherever, you just call me and I send it to your account and you pay for it and you move on. And if you have to replace the roof or do those things, you just kind of balance that against, okay, well, we kind of overspent last year or underspent this year, or we'd like to take this really big trip, a really big expense that's 30,000. We have to understand that we're going to kind of pull from some of next year's, and that makes it a little bit more comfortable for clients to spend their own money. I put it on this last slide. This don't necessarily avoid debt like car loans. A lot of people view retirement as a time where they have gotten past all of their loans, right? The house is paid off. They often own their cars outright at this point or pay cash for cars. But that's not always the case for everyone. And it's not necessarily something you have to avoid. This is something I talk about very commonly with clients. They say like, well, I'm going to have to replace my car in X number of years. I'm like, okay, are you going to take out, they're going to buy a $40,000 car or something. I am not of the mind that you take $40,000 out of your retirement account, which may have some big tax consequences, which may make your taxes that year particularly sensitive. Car loans are pretty darn cheap. Just finance it and take $500 a month extra or whatnot out of the account or something along those lines. One thing I think is important to understand is that when retirement, once you spend a big chunk of money, it's gone. You're probably never going to replace that. So taking big chunks of money out, unless it's a good time, oftentimes the market will be particularly doing well. And clients talk to me, I'll be like, look, market's up like 15% since the start of the year. We don't know if that's going to hold. It actually is a pretty good time to take a big chunk of money out. But I think people focus too much on I spent my whole life getting out of debt, the mortgage and things like that. I don't want to go back into it, when sometimes that's not the smartest financial decision. I talk to this similarly about very young people who prescribe to a certain philosophy, Dave Ramsey or whatnot. And I don't have anything against Dave Ramsey for specific type of people, but I just talked to a young couple just the other day that they're like, well, we have to buy a vehicle and then we're saving up for a house. And I said, okay, how much do you have? And they're like, well, we have like 30,000, but that's mostly can go to the vehicle. And I thought, like, how much are you guys saving a year? And they're like, yeah, in the realm of like ten to $15,000 a year. Like, by not financing that vehicle, you are putting yourself 3 years behind in buying a home. You guys can clearly save and budget. You're saving $10,000 to $15,000 a year on relatively low salaries compared to your peers or people older than you. Debt is not necessarily the enemy for both young people and retirees if you can manage it appropriately and be responsible with it. So that does not change in retirement. But this is not a episode about debt. All right, that's really it. So just kind of jump back here. Quick review: 3-step process. Determine what those monthly needs are that you kind of absolutely have to have in order to live in the current world you live in. Then add on top of that those lifestyle things, eating out, weekend trips, hobbies, things like that. That's what we're going to try and hit from a monthly income post-tax. And then you want to come up with an additional number that you're going to feel comfortable taking out of your account. And from there, we can start to see how in reach or out of reach retirement is. Just some of those numbers need to change, right? This first one probably is not going to change. It's going to be these second two that if we're not quite close enough, we can start talking about how many more years do we need or things along those lines. So that's really it. I hope this is beneficial. If you enjoyed the video, please like. And if you want to see similar content, please subscribe. Next seminar is going to be on Social Security. If you were thinking about, kind of a monthly budget, Social Security is absolutely going to be an impact on you, and you owe it to yourself to make an educated decision around Social Security. My webinar is going to be May 19th at 10 a.m. You can sign up on the website at canavanwealth.com. I will talk to you soon. Thank you.